In 1920, the United States government made a decision that was supposed to clean up the country, reduce crime, and improve morality. They banned the manufacture and sale of alcohol. They called it the Noble Experiment. But in reality, it was a disaster. Ned, instead of stopping people from drinking, it just moved the party underground. And instead of reducing crime, it gave birth to the most violent, organized, and wealthy criminal empires the world had ever seen. And sitting on top of this mountain of illegal money and blood was one man. He wore expensive silk suits, smoked thick cigars, and ruled the city of Chicago with an iron fist. His name was Alphonse Capone, but the world knew him as Scarface. Today, we are diving into the Roaring '20s to see how a Brooklyn bouncer became the most famous gangster in history, and how the government finally took him down. To understand Capone, you have to understand the era. On January 17th, 1920, the 18th Amendment went into effect. America was officially dry. Suddenly, every bar and saloon was closed. But Americans didn't stop drinking. They just started breaking the law. This created a massive business opportunity. If the legal companies couldn't sell beer and whiskey, the criminals would. Speakeasies, secret underground bars popped up everywhere. By 1925, there were over 100,000 speakeasies in New York City alone. To supply these bars, you needed bootleggers, men who smuggled alcohol across borders or made it in secret stills. It was a gold rush. And in Chicago, the boldest prospector was a young man named Al Capone. Al Capone wasn't born in Chicago. He was born in Brooklyn, New York, to Italian immigrant parents. As a teenager, he worked as a bouncer, where he got into a knife fight that left 3 distinct scars on his left cheek, earning him the nickname Scarface. A name he hated, by the way. He preferred Snorky, which meant sharp dresser. In his early 20s, he moved to Chicago to work for Johnny Torrio, the boss of the Chicago outfit. Torrio was a genius. He organized the gangs like a corporation. But the streets were dangerous. In 1925, rival gangsters tried to kill Torrio. He survived, but decided he had enough. He retired and handed the keys to the empire to his right-hand man, Al Capone. Capone was only 26 years old. Suddenly, he was the boss of a multi-million-dollar criminal organization. He controlled the breweries, the speakeasies, the gambling dens. And most importantly, he controlled the police and the politicians. Here is what made Al Capone different from other criminals. He didn't hide in the shadows. He loved the spotlight. He viewed himself not as a criminal, but as a businessman. Hugh famously said, "I am just a businessman, giving the people what they want. All I do is satisfy a public demand." The public actually loved him. Too many. He was a modern-day Robin Hood. He fought against the unpopular Prohibition laws during the Great Depression. He opened soup kitchens that fed thousands of hungry people. He wore custom suits, drove bulletproof Cadillacs, and held press conferences. He had the mayor of Chicago in his pocket and judges on his payroll. He felt untouchable. But behind the smile was a ruthless killer. If you crossed Al Capone, you didn't just get fired, you got whacked. Surveillance reached its peak on February 14, 1929. Capone wanted to eliminate his main rival, George "Bugs" Moran. On Valentine's Day morning, 4 men entered a garage on North Clark Street. 2 of them were dressed as police officers. Thinking it was a police raid, Moran's 7 men lined up against the wall with their hands up. But these weren't cops. They pulled out Thompson's submachine guns, Tommy guns, and opened fire. 70 bullets tore through the men. Capone was in Florida at the time, so he had a perfect alibi. But everyone knew he ordered the hit. This was the turning point. The brutality of the St. Valentine's Day massacre shocked the nation. The newspapers stopped calling him a Robin Hood and started calling him public enemy number one. The federal government decided it was time to bring him down. President Herbert Hoover ordered his agencies to get Capone. 2 teams went to work. Team 1 was led by Eliot Ness, a Prohibition agent. He gathered a group of incorruptible agents known as the Untouchables. They raided Capone's breweries and smashed his trucks. It hurt Capone's pride and his wallet, but it wasn't enough to put him in jail. Team 2 was much quieter. They were the IRS, the Internal Revenue Service, led by an accountant named Frank Wilson. They realized a simple truth. Al Capone lived like a king, bought expensive houses and cars, but he never filed a tax return. In America, even illegal income is taxable. In 1931, the government didn't charge him with murder because witnesses were too scared to talk. They charged him with tax evasion. Capone thought he could bribe the jury, as always. But at the last minute, the judge switched the jury panel with another courtroom. Capone was shocked. The verdict came back. Guilty. Al Capone was sentenced to 11 years in federal prison. Hughes eventually sent to Alcatraz, the inescapable island prison. There, the King of Chicago was reduced to nothing. He was bullied by other inmates and his health deteriorated rapidly due to untreated syphilis. He was released in 1939, but his mind was gone. He died in 1947 of cardiac arrest at his home in Florida. Ironically, in 1933, while Capone was in prison, Prohibition was repealed. Alcohol became legal again. The noble experiment had failed, but it left a permanent mark on history. It created the American Mafia and gave us the legend of the gangster. Al Capone proved that in America, you can rise from nothing to become a king. Shit, but if you fly too close to the sun, or if you don't pay your taxes, you will fall. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, hit the like button. Who is the most interesting criminal in history to you? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe.